Hello everyone, does XRP really have to explode to some crazy high, or is there a chance we just drift into bear territory without ever seeing that happen? Basically, skipping a real alt season altogether. That's what I want to break down today. Here's the thing. I stumbled on some analysis from someone I only recently discovered, and honestly, the perspective feels pretty sharp to me. What they're saying about why a bear market isn't on our doorstep right now, there's real weight to it. That's just not where we're headed. Sure, maybe I'm off base. At the end of the day, I'm one person sharing thoughts online, nothing more. What I'm giving you is my honest take. That said, these points, they've got some serious legs. So there's also this thing the blockchain backer put out recently. He was getting into why we're seeing certain coins blow up right now. I want to spend a minute on that because it's worth exploring. Look, there could be a structural reason why some of these wouldn't rally, like something baked into how they actually function. Maybe that's legit, but the way the XRP ledger works, it basically sidesteps that whole concern. Bear with me for a second. I'm going to spell out my thinking on this. Quick pause though. Let me throw out the disclaimer. My background has nothing to do with finance. Zero. What you're hearing from me isn't investment guidance. Please don't go buying or dumping anything just because of what comes out of my mouth. Okay, moving on. I found this post because chart analyst Credible Crypto jumped into the thread. What he said? I'm about to share that with you right now. This post is from a guy called Brett. Not someone on my radar before, though I'm not sure that changes anything. He looks like he's actually trying to have a real discussion and figure out the reasoning here. What's the case for alt season being inevitable, you know? Reasonable question to ask. Here's his exact words. One of the most common arguments I've seen about why Bitcoin cannot be topped is we haven't had alt season. Yet I haven't seen a single good reason why we have to have a full-blown euphoric alt season in order to say Bitcoin had a successful bull run. I'd love to see Bitcoin keep running. I'm open to ideas/theories about why alt season is required for that to do so. Valid point to bring up, honestly. He's obviously skeptical about the whole thing. Me, though, I'm a believer. Not that I've got some crystal ball or anything, but yeah, I think it's coming. And listen, you could strip away every chart, throw out all the historical data, even though that stuff matters enormously to me. Wipe the slate clean, and it still boils down to one thing: how humans behave. Plain and simple. Why would Bitcoin be at the top already? Seriously, play that scenario out in your head. We're supposedly in a bear market right now. If that's what's happening, then where did human nature go? Since when do people stop chasing profits? They take their Bitcoin gains and hunt for coins that haven't moved yet. That's literally the playbook every single time. This behavior is hardwired into us. It's not a trend or a phase. Did we evolve overnight or something? We've watched this exact same pattern play out for 16 years straight. Sure, historical data backs this up completely. You can lean on that evidence all day long. But honestly, forget the charts for a minute. Just tell me why everyone suddenly stopped being greedy. That's not how humans work. The logic breaks down immediately. That right there should answer the question. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. You need to factor in what's happened before. The history matters big time. And there's something else that seals the deal. CoinMarketCap has this resource. Crypto market cycle top indicators. I'm beating this drum constantly because way too many people are sleeping on it. Pull it up anytime you want. It's monitoring 30 specific signals. These aren't guesses. Every one of them went off exactly when markets topped out before. What's showing up now? Absolutely nothing. We're sitting at 0 out of 30. Not even close to a warning sign. So help me understand why people think we're done here. What's the argument against alt season coming? There isn't one that holds water. Here's what Credible Crypto had to say when he jumped into Brett's thread. He wrote, "Biggest alt season will happen after the Bitcoin top, not before, in my opinion." So if one is looking for a major alt season as a precursor to a Bitcoin top, they'll probably miss the Bitcoin top. In the same way, if someone is crying about alts not performing despite Bitcoin strength, it's probably just an indication that the Bitcoin top isn't in yet. Not that the cycle is over or that we are in a broader bear market. All right, so listen up because this is actually brilliant when you think about it. Alt season isn't the opening act, it's the grand finale. And once you understand why, you'll never look at these cycles the same way again. Bitcoin gets all the attention first, every single time. That's not me being biased. Go check the charts yourself. This is what actually goes down in real markets with real money. But then Bitcoin does its thing. It goes absolutely parabolic and creates this insane FOMO bubble. At some point, people start thinking, maybe I should lock in some gains here. Smart move, honestly. But here's the fun part. You've just sold your Bitcoin. Now what? You've got a pile of cash sitting in your account and walking away completely? Yeah, that's not happening. So the money does what money does. It hunts for the next play. And conveniently, there's this entire universe of altcoins just sitting there, looking cheap compared to Bitcoin. The capital doesn't vanish into thin air. It just shifts gears. It flows downhill from Bitcoin into everything else. That's why alt season always shows up fashionably late to the party. Okay, so Psychedelic dropped this post, and honestly, I'm obsessed with it. Like, if posts were songs, this one would be certified platinum. An absolute banger, as the kids are saying these days. Here's what gets me about this dude. You can just tell he's keeping it real. None of that confirmation bias nonsense where people only shout about what they desperately want to be true, you know? This guy comes across as someone who's actually thought this through. He's genuinely convinced of his position. His whole vibe is like, listen, if you really think about it, there's zero logic in calling this a bear market. It just doesn't track. And then he drops a market cap Bitcoin dominance percentage chart to prove his point. So listen to what this guy writes down. We are all being psyoped. I have spent hours today looking at all the charts that matter, studying the macro and past precedent, and I cannot reconcile that the market is topped here. I'm trying to be as objective as possible, but I just don't see it. Beyond Bitcoin being very close to breaking a few moving averages and some weekly bearish divergences, I'm just not seeing it. We have Bitcoin dominance looking extremely bearish after a clean break of the 2.5-year uptrend in the 1-week 50 simple moving average, and now putting in a very clean retest of that break. But wait, plot twist. This is where it gets spicy. Bitcoin dominance tanking? That's not doom and gloom, folks. Bitcoin itself can keep pumping while dominance tanks. The dominance number just means Bitcoin's share of the pie is shrinking. So riddle me this. If Bitcoin's slice is getting smaller, where's all that money migrating to? You guessed it, flooding straight into altcoins. Alt season alert, people. That's his whole argument in a nutshell. This Bitcoin dominance chart staring back at you on screen? Yeah, it's painting a pretty picture for what's coming. Bitcoin dominance is hanging out just below 60% right now. So here's my question for you. Do you honestly believe that's the floor? Because if history has taught us anything, and I'm talking about every single cycle we've seen, this thing drops way further than that. And check out what he drops next. That is not how a cycle ends. We have total 3. So that's the top 125 coins by market cap, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. This chart says we have total 3 cup and handling, in a cup and handle within a 4.5-year range, holding 1-week 50 SMA. We have the ETH BTC pair consolidating after reversing off the bottom after a 3-year downtrend. Alright, so let me break down why this matters. Ethereum, and yeah, we're looking at it against Bitcoin here. When ETT starts pumping, that's your starter pistol. That's the moment alt season explodes into action. Now, whether you're holding ETH or not, this should get you pumped. Seriously. Even if you're thinking, and hey, full transparency here, I've got skin in this game. Zero shame about it. I'm loaded up on this stuff and totally biased about it. I'm keeping both feet planted in reality here. Trust me, I'm not chasing fantasies. But XRP, that's my baby. That's the one I'm betting on to absolutely rip. And here's why Ethereum climbing gets me fired up, even though I'm not an ETH maximalist. History shows us that when ETH pumps, it's like dominoes falling. Alt season kicks into gear. And where does that take us? Straight to what keeps me up at night in the best way possible. XRP going parabolic, dragging my entire altcoin bag up with it. But hang on, circle back to what he's highlighting here. His exact words were, reversing off the bottom after a 3-year downtrend. Pay attention to this pattern because it matters. Markets don't fall forever. They bottom out. Period. Then he drops this next gem. We have others' dominance, ... Translation, We're talking about the top 125 coins by market cap, but we've stripped away the top 10. This others dominance chart he's showing us is bottoming out after 3.5 years of non-stop down. Same story repeating itself. Markets find their floor eventually. And guess what? XRP did this exact dance. Go dig up the XRP BTC chart from 2024 if you don't believe me, or just check the XRP USD chart from that year. Markets bottom out. Did I know the exact price level where it would turn around? Nope. But guess what actually went down? It hit that floor and then shot up like a cannonball, didn't it? That same playbook is happening right in front of us. This whole market is gearing up for a massive run upward. I'd bet money on it. What do you think? Look, maybe I'm completely off here. I'm not sitting in some trading floor with Bloomberg terminals everywhere, just a normal dude watching the charts. But come on, doesn't this just feel like common sense? Doesn't the pattern seem pretty clear? That's where my head's at anyway. Now listen to what he lays out next. None of this is how a cycle ends. It is totally indicative of how a cycle shapes up as it's nearing its end before the largest overall expansion. Bitcoin is the king, and if it decides to go down, it will drag the market with it. But if that happens, dominance will just climb more, which inevitably leads to an even greater eventual fall. Then we have the macro with quantitative tightening ending and the Fed growing their balance sheet again early next year. And you know what? I'm really happy he brought that up. Check this out. He's pointing to charts. Yes, those are useful. But check this out. He's not stopping there. He's bringing macro into the conversation. Listen, you just can't sit there and make bulletproof calls about future price action while acting like the macroeconomic picture is invisible. Maybe the pure chart analysis works for you half the time, but skip the macro side and you're basically trading blind in one eye. That's tangible information. That's the world we're actually living in. That fundamentally reshapes how trillions of dollars circulate around the entire damn planet. You can't just pretend that doesn't matter. Then he breaks down his thesis. Everything the data is telling me is that we have the final leg of this market left to go in which Bitcoin makes new highs, dominance continues to fall, ETH-BTC continues to pump, Total 3 breaks into price discovery, and others' dominance reverses. Yes, Bitcoin might push a bit lower, but I see nothing on the very broad scale, not just looking at one chart and one indicator. That convinces me we have topped. Meaning he's looked everywhere and hasn't found anything that proves we're done here and sliding into a prolonged downturn. Then he wraps up with, happy to hear opposing thoughts in this post, but I just can't see it. We're going higher and soon. Man, that's exactly the type of grounded perspective we need right now. I think that's a refreshingly rational perspective. And yeah, we're all flying a bit blind here. And he's obviously not playing games with his audience. How do you just ignore what's brewing at the top tier of policy decisions? How do you discard the entire economic landscape and then zero in on just a few sketchy signals you cherry-picked from your technical toolkit? Those signals are legitimate. I point them out on my own channel all the time. But here's my hang-up. Why would you promote those scattered red flags to being your North Star? Why would you let them dictate your entire stance on whether we're about to nosedive or keep climbing? That reasoning just doesn't compute for me. Okay, so here's something wild I discovered. Big shout out to Matthew Hyland, you know, that chart analyst everyone's talking about. His reaction to this post was pure gold. He said, yep, not to mention Wall Street is on the verge of entering crypto with access to hundreds of ETFs, with prices down 90% while retail flees and quit, as sentiment hits worst levels since 2018. Pretty par for the course. Retail always loses or finds a way to lose to the institutions. Honestly, chills. That's exactly what's happening right now. But wait, it doesn't stop there. I also found this interesting take from the blockchain backer. So there's this thing I noticed that I've got to talk about for a second. Just bear with me here. The blockchain backer posted something earlier today that honestly made me stop scrolling. Genuinely can't believe it took this long for people to realize private transactions are important. Your current forms of money are private. Would you want Amazon, Facebook, Google, your neighbors and scammers knowing exactly where and how you spend your money? I mean, when you put it like that, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Now, what sparked this whole thing? Privacy coins are going absolutely ballistic. Monero especially. He's calling it out. Privacy. Monero taking the rings. That was his morning post. And Monero's just dominating as the go-to privacy coin right now. Pull up the 12-month chart and tell me this isn't wild. Is Monero just getting warmed up? Look at these gains. 20% jump in the last week, pushing close to 40% over the month, and 56% up over 3 months. But when you stack it up against the next two I'm going to pull up, Zcash, whoa, hold on. Now that is what I'm talking about. That thing has absolutely exploded. And check out Dash while we're at it. Same story. Sure, it's cooling off just a hair at the moment, but come on, feast your eyes on that beauty. These two right here have just been different. So could Monero pull the same move? Your guess is as good as mine. Here's the thing though, and this is what I really want to get into. The XRP ledger basically lets us sidestep this whole conversation. Now, listen, I'm not against privacy coins. The philosophy behind them, it clicks for me. Assuming regulators don't decide to nuke them out of existence, of course. There's definitely space for these in the crypto world. At least there ought to be. Yeah, there really ought to be. Blockchain Backer nails it with this observation. Think about it. If crypto's really going to replace the cash in your wallet, then yeah, keeping things private becomes kind of a big deal. But here's where it gets interesting. Do privacy coins have to be the answer? Actually, turns out they don't. Now, before anyone jumps down my throat, I completely get why Blockchain Backer hammers on this point. They're not wrong about the importance. My angle here is just showing you there's another way to skin this cat where privacy isn't the make or break factor. Oh, and let me throw this out there real quick. Nothing I say counts as financial advice whatsoever. Seriously, don't base your buying or selling decisions on my YouTube videos, okay? That'd be a catastrophically dumb thing to do. All right, I'll see your face in the next video.